Hey all. In this video, I'm going to talk about two very separate disorders that often get confused with each other, but they really have absolutely nothing to do with each other. So we're going to talk first about schizophrenia, and then we're going to talk about dissociative identity disorder, which used to be called multiple personalities. Two very separate things. So starting with schizophrenia. These two, by the way, these two disorders aren't in the same category at all. It's just they're two that I have to cover. And anyway, so schizophrenia. So schizophrenia is absolutely biological at its root. It is a breakdown of the brain. So it's a lot like Alzheimer's. It's a very physically based thing. It kicks in usually when people are teens or young adults. It hits males, I think, twice as much as females, so way more common in males. Not to say that the environment, be it stressors or drug use or something like that, couldn't trigger some kind of underlying genetic predisposition, but that's true for a heart attack too. So it's definitely a physical condition in terms of what's going on. So schizophrenia is the only disorder that falls under the category of psychotic. So you hear people use the word psychotic all the time, and they just mean generally crazy, but it has a very specific meaning in psychology. It means you are out of touch with reality. And by that I mean that you could not accurately kind of say what was happening around you in any given moment because you're hearing things or you're seeing things. There is no other disorder that has psychosis as a fundamental criteria. Some other disorders can have psychotic episodes associated with them, but they don't have to either, whereas psychosis is always a part of schizophrenia. So other disorders, you may have a distortion of reality, but you could still accurately say who's in the room and so on and so forth. So let's talk about what are called positive symptoms of schizophrenia and then negative symptoms of schizophrenia. Positive symptoms means the person is exhibiting something that normally wouldn't be there. So something has been added. That's why they call it positive. Something is present that wouldn't typically be there in a person. And then, of course, negative is going to mean something that we see in a, quote, normal person is missing. So with positive symptoms, we have things like delusions and hallucinations. And make sure for the test you know the difference between those two. A delusion is a false belief. So you're believing something that's not true. So I'm God would be a delusion of grandeur, or the FBI has cameras in my house would be a delusion of persecution. So there's all different kinds of delusions, but they believe something that's not true. That is different from a hallucination. My definition for hallucination is you're having a sensory experience, meaning taste, touch, smell, hearing, sight. I forgot some of them, but one of those 5 senses. When there's no sensory stimuli there. So you're hearing something, seeing something, smelling, tasting, or touching something. Hearing is the most common, seeing is the next most common, but you can have any of the 5 senses activated when there's no physical stimulus that it's responding to. So I see something in the room, or there are voices telling me things. So grossly disorganized behavior is, honestly, I'd probably put that with a negative symptom. But if you watch the video I put up for schizophrenia, you'll see like the third guy on the video is a really good example of disorganized schizophrenia. All the nouns and the verbs are in the right place, but that guy is making no sense at all. Sometimes you can see disorganized. The fourth person in that video is also disorganized schizophrenia. I think the woman is disorganized too. The first guy's paranoid schizophrenic. He's coherent, but he's exhibiting some paranoid delusions. Catatonic, we didn't show any of those in the video. It's definitely a negative symptom where you actually physically freeze up and stop moving for hours or days. So you do see that occasionally in schizophrenia as well. Other negative symptoms, as it says there, you see flat affect, meaning they show, I say your mom dies and you show no emotion whatsoever, or you can't concentrate, or you withdraw socially. So things are missing that normally would be present. Another positive symptom I just thought of is inappropriate affect. So I tell your mom died, and you start laughing, and that would be inappropriate affect. So again, positive, something's there that shouldn't be. Negative, something's missing that should be there. And again, it has to last for at least 6 months and disrupt the family. And this is such a hard disorder. Again, imagine having a totally normal child until they hit their teens and they're just gone. And there's really not much you can do. Medication can really keep the hallucination and delusions down, but they can have negative side effects over the years. Imagine trying to get someone that has paranoid delusions to take a pill every day when they go around assuming people are trying to kill them. It's so hard to keep people with schizophrenia on medication. Not only because they might think you're trying to harm them, but also because truly the side effects for schizophrenia in medicine are no fun. Also keep this in mind for all disorders. Imagine you've grown up with this disorder. Okay, and so it is your normal, be it bipolar or anything else. It is your normal anxiety, depression, so that when you take a pill and you tend to feel less extreme than you had been, people can report that they end up feeling dead inside because they're used to so much more extremity in their emotions sometimes. So they may not feel like themselves because themselves was schizophrenic or bipolar or so on and so forth. So it can be a really difficult adjustment and difficult to explain. This is the way the rest of us feel, is we don't live at those extremes of emotion as much. Okay, I think that's pretty good for schizophrenia. Let's go on to, if I can make it go, which of course I'm having trouble doing. There we go. Dissociative identity disorder. So there's several disorders that fall under this category of dissociative disorders. A dissociation means part of you is breaking apart from the rest of you, if you will. So dissociative amnesia is, and we've talked about amnesia before, usually it's caused by physical injury. Usually it's just a little bit of information that happens right before the head injury. But in dissociative amnesia, the person completely forgets who they are, and so on and so forth. So you're breaking apart from yourself. Dissociative fugue, which I put a nice video up on that, is really dissociative amnesia with traveling. I don't know why there has to be a separate disorder. But the person goes to another state. They don't remember how they got there. They may have another identity and family. They may not. They just may not know. They come to the attention to the police when they can't say who they are and so forth sometimes. There's depersonalization, where you just don't feel physically attached to kind of your body. You feel like you're watching yourself live, but you don't feel emotions. You don't really feel what's happening in your life. But we're going to talk about dissociative identity disorder. As I said, this is sometimes called multiple personality. So I've been talking a lot about the biological causes of disorders, and this may have a biological predisposition, but it definitely has, for anybody that has it, they have experienced something really traumatic. It seems to only show up in people that have had really severe traumas. Usually it seems to be childhood sexual abuse. Now, this is a very rare disorder. Some psychologists don't even buy into it. They actually think it's the therapist kind of introducing this idea to them. I think that can happen, but I also think people might develop, dissociative identity disorder. I don't know. Sybil is a famous case. 3 Faces of Ease, Minds of Billy Milligan. There's a lot of books on the case studies of these folks out there. Fractured Mind. So if you are interested in that, those are just some interesting books you could read on them. Some of them written by the people, When Rabbit Howls, written by the people themselves that have had the disorder. Some written by the psychologists. But anyway, so I almost think of this disorder as a coping mechanism, if you will. The person is a little child, and they're experiencing unimaginable abuse. I've read some of these case studies, and like in the book When Rabbit Howls, the stepfather was sexually abusing this 3, 4, all through her younger years. He threw her in a well one day and threw a bunch of snakes on her and left her. He shot her pet in front of her. On and on and on. Just horrible, horrible things. And so kids are created, and it's almost like your mind breaks apart. Like, you can't handle this, so I'm going to make up this other imaginary person, if you will, that has to take the abuse, and then we'll tuck them away part of the time so that the core personality has no memory of the abuse. They don't necessarily know that other personality is there. What the core person experiences is they have gaps in time where they don't remember what happened. They find themselves in different situations, wearing different clothes. Their homework ends up being done. And so the longer the abuse continues, the more the personality splinters. There's usually a protector personality. There might be one that's taken over for the academics. There's usually children of different ages that have the memories of the abuse for that age. Again, I showed you a really great video on this. If you scroll down far enough in this section, it's really fascinating video on multiple personalities. And so it's almost like a committee of people that are trying to help you survive. But keep in mind that even the core personality is still showing a lot of dysfunction. They're showing a lot of anxiety, self-injury, alcohol and drug abuse, because obviously there's a lot going on inside. And so oftentimes this does not come to light unless they're in therapy, and so on and so forth. The person themselves, they might be married, but to the loved one, they just look moody and unpredictable and forgetful. So it's not as extreme as it's often portrayed in television. Let's see, your symptoms. I think I have one more page on this. Let me look. Nope, I don't. Okay, so hopefully that answers your questions about those two, and I'll come back and I think I'll try to wrap it up in one more video. I'm so sorry I'm not going to get to see the rest of you. You all were really delightful this semester. It's pretty rare that I have a semester where everyone's wonderful and I have no problem children, but you all really were. And I'm going to miss finishing out this semester with you. But please come by and see me sometime. All right, take care. Bye-bye.